I remember the night I truly thought we might not make it. The house was quiet except for the small sound of a fan and the way my own breath seemed loud in the dark. My spouse was away for work longer than expected. Bills were stacking, the baby cried more than she slept, and I lay there counting possibilities that ended in nothing. Fear felt like a weight in my chest that settled my shoulders and whispered every worst-case scenario. I kept turning over the same thoughts, each one harder to shake than the last. What if this is how it always is? What if I can't fix it? If this story sounds like something you know too well, stick with me a moment. And if you want to hear more stories like this, hit subscribe. A few days later, I found myself walking without a plan, clutching a small bag of groceries, drawn almost mechanically toward the park where an old banyan tree spread its roots like a shelter. I sat on the low stone wall, letting the sun warm my face, and watched a woman with silver hair sweep the fallen leaves into neat piles. She had a gentle way of moving, as if she were saving each motion for a purpose. When she looked up at me, her smile was quiet, but full of something I hadn't felt in a long time: ease. She asked me a question that felt strange in how simple it was. What do you think will happen? I wanted to give her the list of my fears. Instead, I told her I didn't know. She listened like a person who had time to listen, and then she told me a very short story. There was a poor man, she said, who woke each morning and walked to the river to count his losses. He counted what had been taken, what he had once had and no longer did. One day a friend told him, "Try counting what you still have." He did. He counted the roof over his head, the breath in his chest, the bowl he could still fill. It didn't change the fact he was poor, but it changed how he used what he had. He began to see a way to make the next day a little better. Then she looked at me directly and said, "Every morning say to yourself, 'Today will be a good day.' Not because everything will be perfect, but because you can begin by choosing what you look for." She gave me the phrase like one might hand over a small tool. I wanted to say it was foolish. I wanted to say it wouldn't matter. Instead, I took it home and put it by my coffee maker, scribbled on a sticky note, "Today will be a good day." I told myself I would try it for a week, and if nothing changed, I'd stop. The practice was embarrassingly simple. I woke before anyone else, made a pot of coffee, and read the note. I straightened my back, breathed slowly, said the phrase out loud, and then did one small practical thing toward the day. I paid one bill online, I sent one message, I washed one dish. I said a quiet prayer for strength, simple, private, and then stepped into the day. At first it felt like performative optimism, but after a few mornings, I noticed subtle shifts.
Saying the words softened the edge of panic long enough for me to make a phone call I had been avoiding. Saying the words steadied my hands when I opened the bank app and allowed me to think through our options instead of spiraling. The posture of hope, even the small physical gesture of standing straighter, made decisions feel less like traps and more like tasks I could tackle. I started to look for small things to be grateful for. The way sunlight hit the porch in the afternoon, the neighbor who left a bag of bread on our stoop, the baby's laugh when she discovered her toes. People began to notice. My neighbor, who had seen my face from her kitchen window, asked what I had been doing differently. My sister remarked I sounded less hurried on the phone. The woman who ran the corner store said my presence felt calmer, and she began to leave extra change by our groceries. A couple of neighbors came by with a casserole. None of these were miracles that erased our bills, but each one was a small extension of breathing room, of time and kindness that mattered when you are stretched thin. The tangible turning point came quietly. I received a letter in the mail from my spouse, a 3-page note with apologies and plans, and tucked inside was a small check to cover a past due bill. It was not a grand rescue. It was an honest effort at repair. Around the same time, a friend I had called on a particularly bad afternoon offered to put my name forward for a temporary job at the community center. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it created weeks of breathing room and a chance to catch up. When that work started, I felt something open up. Not the removal of all pressure, but a pathway to take a next step. I do not say those things happened because I said words into the air. I say they happened after I was able to act differently. The affirmation gave me enough psychological space to reach out, to accept help, to notice the practical options that had been hidden under panic. Thinking positively wasn't a magic ticket, it was a small habit that changed what I saw and therefore what I did. Months later, I still walk by that banyan tree. The old woman is still there sometimes, sweeping leaves with the same deliberate hands. Her smile is unchanged. People in the neighborhood started picking up the phrase as if it were a small contagious kindness. A mother who said it before her school run. A man who used it before his shift. A teenager who wrote it on his mirror. None of them claim it fixed everything. They tell the same thing I learned. It made a difference in how they move through the hard parts. What changed most for me was not my bank balance overnight, but the stance I carried. Worry is still real and sometimes heavy. Some nights I still wake with that same tightness in my chest. But now I have a tool to steady me, a routine that creates room for choice. That routine taught me to notice what exists rather than only what is missing.
It helped me act in small, steady ways that add up. It made me less alone. If you're wondering whether 3 words can change a life, I won't promise they will solve everything for you. I will offer what I know from my own days. A small daily practice can change how you think, how you act, and what you notice. Here's a simple invitation. Try saying, "Today will be a good day" every morning for 7 days. Keep it private or share it with someone. Notice one thing each day that was kinder, clearer, or lighter because you were paying attention. Come back and tell me what happened. Leave a comment below and share this with someone who needs to hear there is a quiet way forward.